The die regime. Every Fortune 100 company has now adopted diversity, equity, and inclusion brainwashing. So we know why they're doing this, right? They're doing this for the ESG money. They're doing this to get money from these big investment funds. But how funny would it be if all their customers left and the Ponzi scheme fell apart? And all these ESG investment funds went bankrupt because everything they invested in lost money? How funny would that be? I mean, wishful thinking. We can hope. The chief business of the American people is business, President Calvin Coolidge once said. 100 years later, Americans' chief business increasingly is managing racial and sexual politics to the ideology of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's all to appeal to the ESG money. That's what they're doing, man. The Commie Fund, that's right. I have surveyed the programming of every Fortune 100 company and have confirmed that all of them have now adopted so-called DIE programs. These initiatives are no longer limited to high-tech firms in the coastal enclaves. They have spread to traditionally conservative sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, insurance, and oil and gas. The end result is clear. Every major corporation in the U.S. has submitted to DIE ideology and begun to make it a permanent part of its legal and human resources bureaucracy. Now, wouldn't it suck if there was a recession coming by that dried up all the easy money and then they had to start getting rid of their diversity hires? Oh, that would be so tragic. Now, no doubt some of these programs are benign. Many companies adopt DIE policies out of pressure to conform. Probably Nintendo. Most other companies, however, use diversity, equity, and inclusion to promote the most virulent strands of racism and gender ideology. I've documented many examples. Bank of America teaching employees that the U.S. is a system of white supremacy. Walmart telling workers they are guilty of internalized racial superiority. Lockheed Martin forcing executives to deconstruct their white male privilege. No, see, that's fine. They're doing it to their executives. That's okay, because these executives are the ones that implement this garbage. They should have to suffer through it. And Disney promising to abolish the world's boys and girls in its theme parks and inject queerness into its children's programming. Remember, not so secret gay agenda? Disney flat out declared war on kids, basically. 3 factors drive the corporate executives to adopt DIE programs. First, these initiatives serve as an insurance policy against frivolous race and sex discrimination lawsuits. You know what else would? Just move your business out of the U.S. The legal department can point to mandatory trainings and policies as evidence that the company is doing something to prevent discrimination. Now, this has always been the case. It's always the only reason they do these bullshit trainings is so they could cover their ass. So second, executives create these programs to appease internal activist groups that want to use the corporation as a platform for left-wing race and gender activism. There is no appeasing them. They should be fired immediately. If you have any employees that are more interested in using your company as a platform for their activism than doing their jobs, they should be fired immediately. If you keep them around, you're complicit. Thirdly, splashy DIE initiatives such as Walmart's $100 million Center for Racial Equity form a part of a reputation laundering strategy, improving a company's public image and preempting burn, loot, murder-style riots through fashionable philanthropy. That actually doesn't work. No, they're just going to have a "we're on your side" moment. As a bonus, corporate executives, most of whom are rich but not famous, can use the associated galas, events, and junkets to boost their social status and hobnob with celebrities and political figures. Nobody cares about celebrities anymore. It's been so hilarious seeing that happen. The cult of celebrity has kind of died. But more importantly, you missed the real reason. ESG. They're getting woke because it'll boost their ESG score and then they'll get more money from these multi-trillion-dollar, yes, trillion-dollar investment funds. So some conservative commentators are pointing out that the internal contradiction of corporate DIE policies don't reflect the values of customers and don't serve the bottom line. They're not going for the customer, they're going for investors. The political meaning of the word equity, for example, is predicated on an anti-capitalist worldview, but the assessment misses the broader point that given the current political, social, and legal incentive structure, executives are making rational decisions to adopt DIE policies, even if they're doing so in bad faith. They think they're making the rational decision, and they're going to end up just like CNN is now. Like, even when they try to pivot back to the center, no one trusts them anymore. Conservatives' goals should not be to point out the executives' hypocrisy, but to change their incentives in order to change their behavior. Absolutely true. This goal is eminently feasible. In recent months, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has begun to develop a model for changing the hegemony of the bureaucracy. He has abandoned traditionally Republican premise of corporate non-intervention and embraced a more muscular Teddy Roosevelt-style strategy of combating corporate maleficence. Last year, he passed the Stop Woke Act, which prohibits companies from promoting racism, scapegoating, stereotyping, and harassment. Next, he won a high-profile fight with Walt Disney Company, stripping the company of its special governing status and dealing a significant blow to its public reputation. Yeah, Disney is not going to recover from that either. Like, especially once those leaks got out about their not-so-secret gay agenda. Remember, their main audience was parents with kids, so the exact opposite of woke people. So these actions in Florida have already had a ripple effect nationally. Corporate executives have been warning about how to avoid becoming the next Walt Disney Company. Some firms, including Netflix, have laid off diversity, equity, and inclusion employees in anticipation of economic headwinds. Yep, what did I just say? As soon as the recession starts and they're not flush with cash anymore, all the diversity hires are going to be the first to go. So in anticipation of economic headwinds, no doubt, but also because the recent controversies around DIE more generally have opened up the space to do so. Yeah, too bad you waited this long. I mean, they've already destroyed your reputation and no one's going to trust you and come back. Conservatives need to build on these efforts by developing a comprehensive agenda for pushing back against left-wing ideology in corporate America. Yeah, the conservatives' number one flaw is all they ever do is maintain the status quo. They never fight back. They never retake what was lost. It's time we stop. It's time that we stop just, playing defense and go on the offense for once. Take back everything they took from you with interest. So first, legislators must protect firms from frivolous discrimination lawsuits and abolish this disparate impact doctrine, which presumes that firms are guilty of discrimination if all identity groups don't achieve equal outcomes. Yeah, I don't think Republicans have the balls to do this. So next, political and business leaders must work to rein in the ESG policies driven by BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street shareholders nexus through antitrust enforcement. Yep. So now you bring up ESG at the government level and by fostering new competitors in the private sector, such as Vivek Ramaswamy's recently launched Strive Asset Management, a firm that promises to restore the primacy of excellence over politics. Finally, conservative activists should follow the Disney model and vigorously target the reputation of firms that insist on promoting racism and gender ideology at work. A clear message to be sent to executives: declare neutrality in the culture war, or we will make you pay the price in the marketplace. Again, I really don't think conservatives have the balls to do this, but if they manage it, I'll be impressed. Because this is kind of what I've been saying from the start. Like, I did a video on my channel, like what has to be 7 years ago now, when I talked about the concept of the counter boycott. So, basically in the context of like an adpocalypse, right? You got all these advertisers, they pull out, like they try to bankrupt someone, like that's happening to that one network in Airstrip One, that TV network. They try to bankrupt them by pulling their ads until they bend the knee. Okay, then you need to find which companies are doing this and you boycott them. Send them a message. If they keep playing these political games, you're not going to give them your money. The road ahead will be difficult. Bureaucracies have an instinct of self-preservation, and DIE ideology has embedded itself in the country's prestige institutions. Oh, but there's another point I've been harping on for a few years now, right? We're just going to have to strip these prestige institutions of their prestige, because that is the key strategy of the far left. They don't make their own shit. They infest other stuff that has a good reputation and prestige and trust. And then they abuse that trust and reputation and prestige to push their agenda. So once we just strip them of that trust and prestige, it's pretty easy. But nothing is more important for the success of American innovation and self-governance than prevailing over a regime that seeks to supplant life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness with diversity, equity, and inclusion as the governing principle of the United States. I do agree at the very end. I do. It is super important that we crush this communist bullshit while we still have the chance.